What a great intro to the message I want to share with you this morning. And let me give you a bit of an introduction by saying this, that this message that I want to share with you today comes out of some discussions with myself, introspection, asking myself some tough questions, like, why do you pastor? Why do you preach? And do you believe what you preach? And I asked myself, what will the church look like in 10 years? What will believers be doing in 10 years? So out of all that, if I can funnel it down into 30 minutes, it'll be amazing. But I just want to try to share with you what I've been going through in my head and try to put it together in a way that would cause there to be some thinking processes in your own mind about what you believe, what you say you believe, and how strong of a believer are you? So God, bless your word this morning to our hearts. And Lord, it's more than blessing. But Lord, bring transformation. Bring change. Tired of church without change. Really. The church supposed to bring change. Or otherwise, it's just another gathering. We want to be real believers standing firm in our faith. Amen. Oh, it was the 1970s. Great era to be alive. In the 1970s, there was a fad that came along in the 1970s. It was a very short-lived fad called the mood ring. It appeared on the scene. Everyone was buying them. Ladies, of course, were buying them. I didn't buy one. But the ring was a specialized liquid crystal that acted like a thermometer. The crystal changed colors based upon the temperature of the finger that the ring was on. There was even, when you bought this ring, there was even a color code that went with it, and whatever color it was, you'd go to the chart and say, well, this is the color, this must be the kind of mood they're in. I want you to know there's other ways to know what kind of mood people are in. There's many, many other ways to know. How many know looks can kill? That's a mood. That's one you want to run from. But the mood ring, it was a fad that went out with bell bottoms and disco and guys wearing high-heeled shoes. I did. I wore high-heeled shoes, and anyways, that's enough of that. The mood ring. How many have seen a chameleon? It's a unique lizard that has the ability to change skin coloration. Pink, blue, red, orange, green, brown. Why does it change color? It's because so it can blend in better. So its prey cannot spot them. So they don't have to run away. They can just change on the spot. It's all about camouflage. Don't find me out. Let me blend in with my surroundings. That's what it's all about. And so I wonder, as I set the stage here, what kind of a believer what kind of a pastor am I? What kind of a believer am I? What kind of a believer are you? Sorry, I'm full. I can't take any more. What kind of a believer are you? Sorry, I like to involve people in my sermon as it goes along. I'm glad to have you. What kind of a believer am I? Does it really matter? Yes, it does. God says it matters. You know something? Your character speaks loud and clear. It says it matters. To your wife, it matters. To your husband, it matters. To your children, it matters. You know something else? It matters to your church. Let's throw something else in here. It matters to your legacy. What will you leave behind? When you breathe your last breath and you're gone, what will people remember you by? It's important. Of course it matters what kind of a believer we are. And I ask myself too, and ask you, we just finished a series on what I believe. What has that done for you? What has it done in me? Now, I to be honest with you, I try not to preach just for the sake of preaching. I try to preach for change. Every time I put a sermon together, I say, God, I'm preaching for change, not because I've done it all these years, not because, just for the sake of hearing myself, because I hate to hear myself, believe me. I never listen to myself. But I preach for change. I preach that someone's life will be transformed. Now, let me go on to say this. It's easy to be a conformist. Oh, it's easy to be a conformist. Just do that. Sweet. I almost had candy in that hand. Put it up in the air, and whatever way the wind is blowing, where I'll go today. Conformists. Conformists go with the flow of traffic. Conformists go with the flow of traffic even if the majority are on a dead-end street. Well, must be the right way to go. I've even gone to auctions before, and everybody's bidding, and I thought, well, if everybody's bidding, it must be good. I might as well get in too. Sometimes, not a good idea. But conformists travel with packs and majorities. Conformists, they don't rock any boats. Conformists are afraid of consequences. Conformists are content to follow ruts. Conformists follow trends. Conformists want to know, what is popular opinion? What is everybody else doing? Before I make a decision, I want to know what the majority is. That's a conformist. Now, conformists don't care what's right. They care what is easier. Conformists has a selfish bend to it. And we're told that most people are conformists. Check it out. I already did. That's what they say. Most people are conformists. It's just the easiest way through life. But now let's go to a nonconformist. Nonconformist people are a rare and unique breed. Oh, yes, they are. They don't ask what other people are saying, doing, or thinking before they make a decision. They don't follow the freeway if it's going the wrong way. They say, hey, this is wrong. I'm going to take the dirt road, even if it's a harder trail. They don't conduct their lives according to the polls. They conduct their lives according to the Bible. Nonconformist people do not ask which way is easier, but they ask, you know what I'm going to say? They ask which way is right. Nonconformist people are not afraid to be the odd man out. Nonconformist people do not calculate where the chips might fall or land before action. They just speak truth and live truth. Nonconformist people stand up when needed, and nonconformist people, we're told, are a rare breed indeed. Nonconformists have a selfless mindset, a selfless bend to them. And so this morning, I'm preaching for a rare breed of believer today. Nonconformists, that we'd rise up and say, I want to be a nonconformist. One that's not afraid to stand up and stand out for Jesus. When we first moved to Brandon in 2002, my son, Gary Jr., first day in Crocus Plains, I noticed in the morning he had a white T-shirt on, and he made his own with a felt marker, I am a Christian. I thought, man, that's pretty bold. I am a Christian, not afraid to stand up and stand out. I did ask him later on, I said, Gary, would you ever do that again? He said, probably not. The singing Christmas tree, we put it on for many, many years. And we asked for responses. When you ask for responses, you better be ready. They're not always nice and fuzzy and beautiful and tingly. One said one time, and maybe two, maybe three, it's too preachy. I said, right on. I said, right on. They got the message. No, but it's too preachy. But see, we're not afraid to stand up and declare that the singing Christmas tree is about the gospel. It's not about anything else. It's not about performing. It's not about listen to my voice. If you heard mine, you may not be so thrilled. Actually, I can sing like a nightingale. I don't know why they say that. Anyhow, but that's what the singing Christmas tree is all about. We're never going to water it down because we believe in its message. We're going to stand firm. It's all about promoting the Lord Jesus Christ. And the song we're going to sing, one of the songs is We Believe. It's amazing how God has been leading and directing us. I look back and I just scratch my head. I say, God, it's amazing what I'm discovering about how you lead and direct. We believe in the fall, and now we believe in the singing Christmas tree is the title of our presentation. One of the songs we sing is entitled, We Believe, and we're praying for God's Holy Spirit. We cannot hardly sing it in practice without it affecting us. We believe, we will not change. We will not alter. We will not water it down. That's why the tree is being Did I make that clear? So, you know something? I have a impact. I'm going to call it an impact text. Found in Daniel. Just in case just to give you an example. Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 to 6. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, and he set it upon the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, they were all there, and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. Now we're going to find out. Who are the conformers? Who are the non-conformers? Well, 3 guys said, we're not going to do it. Verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we're thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Wow, that is a powerful statement. There's all kinds of things come to my mind. Processing. Where am I fit in this? Where do you fit in on this? Here's the story. King Nebuchadnezzar constructs a gold statue. It's 90 feet tall, which is 3 times the height of this ceiling to the point of about 30 feet from here up. 3 times the height of this, 9 feet wide, and here was their new national idol. Here was a visible expression of Nebuchadnezzar's new theology. I want everyone to run with it. Hook, line, and sinker. Buy into it. This is destined to satisfy my latest craving. And so when you read that and I read that, I ask the question, what happened, O king? What happened? Because if you go back to chapter 2, we read of your confession, King Nebuchadnezzar. I read what you confessed before Daniel. In fact, you fell prostrate before him. And you said these words. You said, your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings. King Nebuchadnezzar said, there's a Lord that's greater than my kingdom even. And I acknowledge that. I publicly declare it. So King Nebuchadnezzar, what happened to you? Now you're back to a new wrapping of your old beliefs. We're told 10 years had passed. Now in 10 years that passed, maybe pride began to sneak in and raise its ugly head. And he began to feel that his God was mightier than the Hebrews' God. And maybe fear of his kingdom. Daniel said, God said his kingdom's going to last forever. Maybe he said, I want my kingdom. And so maybe he began to feel, I'm more important. We really don't know why, but here is what I do know. 10 years in the faith. 10 years in the church. That can be good for you or bad for you. 10 years in ministry. 10 years preaching the gospel. Can be good for me or bad for me. It really can. Time is a killer of faith, or time is a builder of faith. So where are you after 10 years? Analyze yourself. I'm in the process. That's where this comes out of, a process of evaluating me. I preached a sermon long time ago, a district conference, and I spoke on this subject, what I believe after 15 years. Now it's 32 in ministry. What do I believe now after 30? Has time been good for me? Has time been good for my faith? Has standing behind here over the years been a growth spurt for me? Or is it something, well, I just get up there, we're going to do it every Sunday. Has time in the faith been a benefit? I've been saved now give my heart to the Lord 41 years ago. Where am I today? That doesn't really mean anything if today it's not too successful. So what if I've got a good history? Do I have a good present? Where am I after 32 years of pastoring? Has time been good for me and my faith? So I'm asking the tough questions. And I'm in the process of still doing it. You don't just do it in one session. It's just kind of been doing this since the fall now. Because how I know is by what I do. And so what I do tells me if all these years in ministry and if all these years in the faith have been good to me or not by my actions. Am I a selfish conformist where it's all about me? Or am I a selfless nonconformist where it's all about others and less about me? So Nebuchadnezzar's delusions led him to construct a false god to be worshipped. But time in the faith has been good to these three guys. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were non-conforming saints of God, selfless, and they are, according to stats, according to what we read, they are selfless people, are a rare breed. People that do not conform, people that care about others, are a rare breed indeed. And I'm preaching for a rare breed of believer today. It was supposed to be a grand dedication day, the big moment. The king had all this dreamed up in his mind of what he wanted. Now it's coming to fruition. It's coming together. This is the day. The king is pleased, and the king is excited about this grand music worship attraction. The king took his seat, and he said, "Maestro, start the music." And it seemed to go without a hitch as the sea of people just all began to fall on their faces. Oh yeah, conformists. And the king, I'm sure he smiled deep inside. I'm glad. Oh, what a beautiful day. Everything's going my way. People are responding. People are doing what I say. They're worshiping. They're falling down. Conforming, but something went terribly wrong. This past week, I put myself in that sea of people. What would I do? Put yourself in that sea of people. What would you do? Doesn't matter how short you are or how tall you are. When they're all down, you'll stand up or you'll stand out. Even little me would stand out. Would I stand up? Something went terribly wrong, and some astrologers approached him and said there were three that they just, out of all these people, these three stood strong. And king, you know them well because they work for you. You hired them. Who hired they? Shadrach, Meshach. Oh, them? Shadrach, Meshach. No, also Abednego. Oh, the three of them. Oh. They will not bow down. They're not conforming. We got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. They said, now let me kind of fill the blanks in a bit. They said, we're not going to bow down to that ugly thing. That tall statue. Why would I bow down to some ugly thing when I have a God who's alive? A living God. He's no statue. I'm not going to bow down to that. They were declaring, this is what we believe, and this is what we are prepared to die for. Now the crowd's getting a bit thinner. This is what we don't just say. This is what we're willing to give up our lives for. You can't read this passage without stopping and saying, where am I? In the process, without looking in the mirror. I love the news that God gave Elijah when he was down and out and thinking, I'm the only one. Remember 1 Kings chapter 18, and prophet Baal, and he takes off running, and he's under the tree, he wants to die. 1 Kings 19:18, I'm the only one. I've been good to you, God. I've served you, done all this, and I'm the only one. God said, ho, 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 ho. It's Christmas time. No, ho. It's amazing what comes in your mind. Hold it, he said. I got me 7,000 others who've never bowed down to Baal, never kissed that altar, Baal. You see, God always has his nonconformers. That's why I don't have to worry about the news. That's why when I read things that alarm, and they do, I can go to God and say, God, you're bigger, you're bigger, you're bigger, you're bigger. You don't have to fear. God always has his own. God always has his nonconformers that will stand up. They're out there. They're just rare. Isaiah 55 verse 19 says that when the enemy shall come in like a flood, God will lift up a standard against him. And we see on the news today the floods, the terrorism, the news, the fear. I see fear, hear fear a lot. But you know, when that happens, God guaranteed, I will always raise up a standard against him. Who's the standard? They're the nonconformists. They can be you. They can be me. People that just decide, I'm going to stand firm in my faith. And so God had him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in his nonconformist camp. Oh, it would have been so much easier to bow down in the flesh. You know, raise your hands like this inside. No one will see me. Have my own little personal praise and worship service. By outside, though, I'm a mood ring. Outside, I'm a chameleon. But inside, oh, God will understand. Will God really understand? That's the question. It'd be easier to bow down and, okay, I'm going to bow down, but I know that later on I'll make amends with God. So I would call that pre-planned disloyalty, wouldn't you? Oh, it's a cruel and callous world. I know God will understand. Will he? Oh. With nothing doing for these three Hebrew guys, they inspire me in this day and age. Just inspire me after 32 years of ministry, after 42 years or so of being a believer. They inspire me, as Paul said, having done all, to stand. 1 Corinthians 15, you do it, stand. John Maxwell said, all you got to do nowadays is stand, and you're well ahead of the average. All you got to do nowadays is stand up, and you're well ahead of the crowd. Because there's not too many of them out there. As a pastor, I'm finding that there are other pastors that are sliding into conformity. Conforming. They're preaching, and I'm going to call it a lopsided grace message. Lopsided because it kind of waters down the truth. Because it doesn't feel good. Because it's easier to preach, and lopsided grace messages pays the bills. When you make someone mad, they leave, and so does their money. Lopsided grace says, I want to keep them, and I'll tickle their ears. Got some feathers? Lopsided grace messages is job security. Lopsided grace messages keeps you alive. Lopsided grace messages keeps all the people happy. Keeps most of the people. You can't please everybody. Come on. But it keeps most of the people happy. Lopsided grace. Lopsided grace. If it feels good, speak it. If it works, speak it. If it doesn't, don't speak it. Now, can I say this about grace? We sang about it this morning, about his love. Grace is greater than my sin. Greater than whatever I've done in the past. And I'm glad that it is. But grace will never make me feel good in my sin. Never. Grace will say you're forgiven if you want to come to Christ. Grace will never say, it's okay, God understands. Just, it's a rough world. Everybody's doing it. And sometimes truth hurts. Sometimes truth stings. And sometimes truth gets people mad. Oh, I'm getting sweaty. Sometimes it does. This is the part of my sermon that I'd rather cut out, but I can't. John chapter 1 and verse 14 says that Jesus came from the Father full of grace and full of truth. What does that mean? He rose up grace. Now, wouldn't it be something if that's the only thing he rose up? No, he rose up truth. Grace and truth. The truth is you need Jesus. The truth is Jesus Christ saves. The truth is without Jesus you're lost. Without Jesus you'll never have eternity with God. I am the way. Change it all you can, but it doesn't change the word of God that says, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. Grace and truth, grace and truth. Lopsided grace just puts this one up and says, well, let's have a committee and discuss it. What's the Bible say? End of debate. See, you leave all to follow Jesus. Ask Matthew in the Gospels. Not my son, you guys him too. Ask Matthew. He left everything. He was a tax collector. He could not go back to his old ways. He left it all. Follow Jesus. See, if we don't stand up for the word and stand up in the word, we're going to fall for the world. Easier isn't always right. And this is quite an age we're living in. There may come a time when your faith will be tested. Will you stand strong? Will I stand strong? There may be a time when the preach from a pulpit would say, you can't preach this, son. You can't preach. Would I still show up? Those are the tough questions I'm asking myself. I can say all kinds of things, but will I really? Oh, yeah, like Peter. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. That's just thoughts buzzing around in my head. Okay, so I like the spunk, the spine, and the guts of these three nonconformists. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I want to stand with them. Number one, each point is about 15 minutes long. No, they're really short. Number one, the risk was great. These guys had good jobs. Daniel chapter 2, verse 49, they were administrators over the province of Babylon. They were appointed by the king, his personal stamp. They were sitting in high social positions. They had good salaries. They had good pension plans. To put it in our perspective, they had a good holiday package, going to Hawaii twice a year. They had company benefits. They had a company horse and a company chariot. How do you know? They had a good medical plan. Now, who wants to risk this? Who wants to risk and give up goods? See, flesh says this. Flesh speaks to us loud and clear and says, be reasonable. You know what God says? Be faithful. To reasonable, God says, that's the end of number 1 point. See, it's quick. Number 2, second point, the risk was great. Yeah, it's the same as the first. This is for those of you that are choosing to nod off a little bit. Try to swing you back. We're not just speaking about loss of job. Hey, it goes deeper. Now we're speaking about loss of life. I'm just not going to lose a good paying job, good benefits. The risk is great. They knew the furnace would be blazing and they knew 3 spots and they had time to reconsider. They were given time to, hey, think it over, you guys. Is this really smart to be a nonconformist? But nothing doing. God was worthy of their allegiance. The risk was great. Number 3, the risk was great. Yes, the same as the second and the first. My old age is just some things happen. if you throw us in the furnace, our God is able to deliver us from the fire. Now, you know something? That is a risky statement. If you throw us in the fire, my belief in God is so strong that I actually believe that God can deliver me from it. That's risky talk. Chapter 3, verse 17 of Daniel. What if God does not come through? But what if he does? What if God cannot hear? But what if he can? What if God is not able? What if he is able? What if there's no God? But what if there is? See, it's in the impossibles that God does the exceptional. And I just want you to know here that he is well worth the risk. Number 4, fourth point. The risk was great. One more to add to it, just in case you think I'm predictable. But the reward was greater. The risk was great, but the reward was greater. These 3 guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, willing to pay the ultimate price. If God chooses not to, they just had everything covered. He can do it, but if he doesn't, it gets even better. He's sounding like Paul. Paul said, for me to live is Christ, to die. Well, that's just better yet. If God chooses not to deliver us, it's a win-win. We live in the faith and we die in the faith. We believe and we take it to our graves. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, by faith. All these guys' names are mentioned, and we read of miracles, we read of signs and wonders and deliverances, but keep on reading. Do not stop partway through. Later on, people beheaded, people being speared. I don't want to read that. No, still the Bible. Here's the truth of the fact. The fact of the matter is this. There's some people that die young in the faith. Here's the facts today. There are people being persecuted today around the world for their faith. There are churches that meet underground today because they can't meet in public. There are people that are beaten because of their faith. All we have a problem with is icy roads. Danny McKay said a few weeks back, he said, the biggest persecution we face today is when we tell someone about Jesus, they say, I don't want to hear it. And we fall into our faces. I can't never do it again. Sure you can. Sure you can. Be a nonconformist. We really don't know what persecution is. We got it easy. Man, we got it easy. So easy that we become lukewarm. So easy that our light doesn't shine anymore. So easy that we don't pray as much as we used to. So easy that now we're addressing spiritual vitality in the church, that we need to resurrect our faith, resurrect and stir up. We've had it so easy. The truth is, in countries that are being persecuted for the faith, believers are growing by leaps and bounds. In countries where it's easy, comfortable, churches are starting to dwindle. Does anyone wonder why I get introspective with myself and ask myself some tough questions? Any reason why I ask you to ask yourself some tough questions? I believe today is the day. We're so much on the news and so much terrorism and this is the day for us to stand firm in our faith like never before. This is the day to support the church and its ministries like never before. This is the day to let the light shine. This is the day for the singing Christmas tree like never before. Because people are ready, I believe, to hear the good news of Jesus. What an hour to present the ministry of the singing Christmas tree. What an hour to have a theme, we believe. This is the day to stand strong. This is the day to declare with certainty, this is what I believe in, live for, and die for. Well, these guys were delivered. I believe in miracles. Last Sunday I shared with you a message on that. I believe in miracles. But what do you do when the miracle doesn't happen? What do you do if you don't come out of the lion's den? What do you do if you don't come out of the furnace? Paul would say, I just get to live for eternity. Quicker. I just get to go with Jesus. And we have to get our minds on heaven more than on earth. And listen, I'm speaking to myself. Oh, am I speaking to myself? We have to keep our minds on heaven, our minds upon Jesus. We live here, we work here, we do business here, but don't think you're going to be here forever. Don't think this is it. This is nothing. Eternity, you got to have your hope in heaven, our hope of eternity. So in light of that, I'm preaching for non-conformist saints of God. Will you stand up and say, I'll be part of that? I'll stand with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. It says, do not conform to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Do not follow the ways of the world. Follow the ways of the Word. And at this stage of my life, being in ministry all these years, this is about where I'm at. I don't want to conform. I want to stick to this word, the same word that transformed my dad's life. The same word, the same word. We shall not be moved from his word. And let the chips fall where they may. Stand, please, with me. It's not a Yahoo tickly message, but it is true. It is true. It is what I believe. It is why I stand here. And so, Lord, I pray for my brothers and sisters in Christ. This is a day for the Christians to rise to their feet. This is the day for the Christian to speak to people who are bewildered and confused. To say, hey, there is a way, there is a way. His name is Jesus. This is the year. The year. If we ever prayed, today is the day to increase our prayer, read our Bibles more, be more committed, and get behind the gospel message. So God, I pray, and I pray for myself. I pray for strength. I pray for endurance. I can say all kinds of things, but it means nothing if I don't have follow-through. And I don't think I'll ever really know until or if the time comes. But Lord, I'm trying to think ahead so that I can kind of determine or think through the process the stance I would take. And I pray that I'd be strong. I pray that I would endure. I pray that I would not bow down. I pray that I would stand up and say, I'm going to believe God, whatever it takes. Pray that for each one this morning. It's in your name we ask, in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to sing a song in conclusion. If you'd like to receive ministry and prayer, just step out, come down to the front. We'd be glad to lift you up before our Father.